Hey guys, Shofter here. Now in this video I'm going to be talking of what I think are the 5 best, bargain weapons in the game. Now for Normandy. Now, basically what I mean by bargain weapon are weapons that are very cheap, so minimum at least 2 silver orders. And what I think are just really effective and, obviously there are some weapons that are worth the 3 orders over something, which is worth 1 order. So, obviously, there's stuff like this. But these are still incredibly good, weapons that you probably should still pick up, even if you don't. And these are, good replacements. If you don't have these free order, you don't have the free order weapons, you should use these weapons instead. Anyways, let's start with number 5. Coming in for number 5 is actually the Walther PP. Now, the thing is, the Walther PP is a very, very cheap pistol. Now, you might be thinking, the Walther PP, really? Why is this a bargain buy weapon? Well, compared to what the Axes have for pistol options, it's actually dirt cheap, for a start. It's only 1 silver order. And it performs about as well as the other pistols. The other pistols have slightly better damage, but it's not noticeable more damage. Like, if anything, it's more like, this will take 3 shots to kill, whereas this takes maybe 4. Which, it sounds a bit better, but the thing is, the Walther PP actually does hold its own, and I think it feels better to use than something like the Luger, and obviously it had a better reload than something like the C98, which I don't actually like. I don't like C98s too much. And also, if you compare it to the Allied options, what the Allies get, the Colt New Service at the same time, it's much better than the Colt New Service. And so basically, if you have bolt actions or, snipers, something like that, who are using bolt actions, having a Walther PP is actually you get a few by default with the tank crews and the pilots. So having a couple of these by default is actually pretty good in my opinion. Anyways, let's move on to number 4. Coming in at number 4 is actually the M1 Garand. Now, the Garand is actually, I think everyone knows how good the Garand is. It's not, you're not hiding anything when you talk about how good the Garand is. The only reason I think the Garand is a great bargain buy is it's basically just, you can use this in close range, you can use this in mid range, you can use this in long range. Compare this to something like the Carbine, which is on a similar level. Carbines you can only really use at close range. I would say, people still use the Garand up until until they've maxed out the campaign, which obviously, of course, there's obviously the M1 Garand with the grenade launch, which is pretty good as well. But the reason is the M2 as well. People say, the M2 is really a situational weapon, where the M1 Garand can be used in pretty much every circumstance, no matter what. And it will perform a great job. This is a one-shot kill at pretty much all ranges, compared to something like the Carbine, which is a 2 to 5 shot kill at all ranges, depending on the range. This thing's 1, maybe 2 shot, depending on how unlucky you get. And this thing is just, it's just an awesome weapon. And also, it's iconic as well. So, yeah. I think you can also equip a bayonet onto this thing as well, which makes it even better at close range, in my opinion. It's a really good close range weapon, and it's a really good mid and long range weapon. It's probably the best, in my opinion, for the Americans for close and long range, and it's only at 1 silver order. So, very good weapon. The only downside I have with this is that in order to pay for the upgrades, you have to level up the radio squads, which, well, I don't like radio squads at all in this game. So, yeah. Anyways, let's move on to number 3. Coming in at number 3 is actually the Piat. Now, the Piat, most people will probably go with the same reaction with the pistol. Why the Piat? Because, well, the reason the Piat is so good is it does a lot of damage. It's great for crew sniping. You can take out Panthers with ease. Really, but the main thing is that it's a really effective anti-tank weapon, and it's, again, 1 silver order. Now, the only other anti-tank weapon the Allies have is the bazooka, and the bazooka, it's okay. It's an okay anti-tank weapon. It's more of a precision anti-tank weapon, whereas the Piat's more of a heat anti-tank weapon. You know this because it uses heat. This uses heat rounds, whereas he uses heat launcher rounds, whereas the bazooka uses more projectile rounds, if you know what I mean. It doesn't use heat rounds at all, so it's more like, compared this to like, so basically compare it to like the German 80 rounds where they, you know, they scatter out, whereas the American ones go straight through. That's the best way to compare the two. Now, I will say that the Piat has the disadvantage on range, which is where the M1 basically outperformed it. Because the M1 you can snipe tanks from across the map with this thing, and it's really good at doing that. But I will say the bazooka, I mean, it's still pretty good. The bazooka is still pretty good. So is the Piat, so they're both good. But I think this is a really good, you know, for what it is, it's a really good anti-tank weapon. I think I'd put it as the second best anti-tank weapon in the game, maybe behind the Panzerfaust as well for Normandy. And I would say it still is one of the best. Anyways, let's move on to number 2. Coming in at number 2 is actually the MP40. Now, the reason I have to put the MP40 at number 2 and why it's number 2 for the bargain buys is because, well, let's look at the pros this weapon has. One, you upgrade this via the Assaulter 1 squad, which is one of the best squads, you know, in the game. It's really easy to level up the Assaulter 1 squad, so getting this, you'll probably have the levels required to max this thing before you even touch the weapon. Second, it has a good rate of fire. It's good at pretty much at close and mid-range. And it's just a solid SMG. And really, it will hold its own against the best. Now, usually what I would say is if you have the resources to do it, you should probably equip something like the MP35 or the Beretta over it when you unlock them. But if you don't have the resources, you can use this thing until you get to the MP43, right? And I'm not even kidding. You can actually use this. If you're a free-to-play player, I would recommend just sticking with the MP40. Use this until you get to the MP43. Maybe if you have the, you know, when you get the Beretta, the ZK, and the, you know, the MP35, when you get the free version of those, you get one of free. You know, maybe upgrade them if you have an excess of bronze orders. But I would say just stick with this. It's a fucking great SMG, to be honest. It's a really good SMG. The only problem is it's just, you look at what's after it, and you know, it's a really good bargain buy SMG in my opinion. So yeah, really good. It performs well, and it's got a good rate of fire. What's there to hate? Anyways, let's move on to number 1. Coming in at number 1 is actually the Gavriel 43. Now, the Gavriel 43's problem is, well, you can just say it in one thing. Fallschirmjäger Gavriel 42. 40. I just said 40. I just said 52 instead of 42. Oh, yeah. Basically, the FG42. Anyway, the FG42 is just it is just overpowered. Like, the FG42 is disgusting in how OP it is. And the Gavriel 43, the problem with it is you've got to contend with it with the FG when using it. However, despite this, if you don't have the funds for the FG, let's say you're saving up for the MP43, having a squad equipped with maxed out Gavriel 43s is still incredibly good. And in my opinion, I still use this. Like, I still used maxed out, you know, Gavriel 43s. Like, I still use them in Berlin, and I'm still cracking out, you know, lots of kills with these maxed out Gavriel 43s, even against PPS-8 users. Honestly, the Gavriel 43 is a fantastic weapon. I would say this is a 9, maybe even close to a 10 out of 10 weapon. But this might actually be a 10 out of 10 weapon. It's a fantastic weapon. It's got a good rate of fire. You know, it's got a good load time. It sounds incredible, and it kills effectively. Anyways, I'm going to end the video here. Really, that's all I have to say. Like, the Gavriel is just a powerful, solid weapon. The only downside I have with it is of course, like the M1 Garand, that you have to upgrade the radio squads if you want to upgrade this. Other than that, it's still really solid. Anyways, I'm going to end the video here. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.